As I read these paragraphs, tears fill up my eyes. For once I feel that I'm not alone in this mission, and that what seemed illogical or an irrational mission is now authenticated by someone sharing the same mission. For so long I've had this immovable, unexplainable instinct to liberate myself and others. The words in the post, the Bodhisattvas saw true liberation. It's only when all beings cross the other shore. This rang deep in my heart as I was overwhelmed with the suffering in the world and my own incapacity. This is a feeling I cannot express, for this mission has been ingrained in me for so long, and I've never been able to put it into words as beautiful as this practitioner did. To come to terms with this seemingly impossible mission, and to accept that it roots from a deep, deep part of my heart is simply heartbreakingly touching. For I who haven't attained Buddhahood, yet whose mission is to bring all beings across the other shore, feels simply a bit too much to handle. Though there is no feeling of a need to do so per se, as it is seen that suffering exists but no one suffers, yet an immovable inclination to do so still remains. I long for guidance from Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and beings with wisdom, as I feel into the suffering of the world whilst recognizing the empty and interconnected nature of reality. My heart breaks a tear. It doesn't cry because it must reserve strength, perseverance, grit, compassion, metta, and joy. Until all beings are liberated, I cannot shed a tear. The post reminded me of my natural inclination and brought it to the surface of my mind so I may investigate and gain wisdom. It's a stern reminder from the conditions of the universe that I should practice with discipline, ease, compassion, and insight, as I was taking it easy for a few days, enjoying my recent realization. It is a sure sign that I must work on my own practice and cultivate compassion, samadhi, and wisdom in everyday life. There is a stigma in the practical dharma scene to not formulate ontology. Now, I recognize this because at some point in our spiritual journey, we cross a threshold where we realize formulating ontology is arbitrary because it's all just this. However, I believe that building our own philosophy and ontology helps us navigate reality and come up with our own set of guidelines in order to make better choices and live a more skillful and compassionate life. You might argue that it's all just empty, luminous appearances. Any ontological viewpoint is inherently void. Yes, in a way, but I think when we say that everything is inherently void, it might be interesting, at least I found it interesting, to investigate. Are we using emptiness as a spiritual bypass to our problems in life? Or to negate what we're feeling in our bodies? And does emptiness really negate the formulation of ontology? If one sees through the interconnectedness, empty, luminous, and the spontaneous nature of our human compassion, then it's only natural that our compassion inclines us to liberate all sentient beings, so to speak. After all, if reality is neither one nor many, and that we are all interconnected, we naturally come to a place where we view true liberation as only when all sentient beings are liberated. When we believe in separation, we feel that something is missing, and we're looking everywhere to feel whole again. We want to come home, be free, be whole again, but that is futile. because we were never separate to begin with, and there has never been anyone here to be whole. And you were staring at your bedroom wall with only ghosts beside you. Somewhere out where the wind was calling, I was on my way to find you. I was on my way to find you. And you were racing like a cannonball, and roller skates and sky blue, or in the backseat watching the slow rain falling. I was on my way to find you. Gotta find out who I'm meant to be. I don't believe in destiny, but with every word you swear to me, all my beliefs start caving in. Then I feel something about to change. If you want peace, I understand. If you long for total ease, I understand. If you are suffering, I understand. We are in this together, so let's end our suffering together. It will take time, maybe lifetimes, but I have faith, so let's walk this road together. So bring the lightning, bring the fire, bring the fall. I know I'll get my heart through. Got miles to go, but from the day I started crawling, I was on my way to find you. I was on my way to find you. So yesterday when I was walking home, I was approached by some monks. They were on the street talking to people about their religion. Before I go on any further, I must make a disclaimer that they are amazing people. So what happened? So essentially we were talking, and it came to a place where we started talking about souls. And I've been curious about traditions that believe in a soul, because for me, I'm trying to formulate my own ontology, and what I formulate must, at least in some regards, align with direct experience. And the idea of a soul is fine to me as long as it's, a conceptual pointing. But in Hinduism or in Hare Krishna, they believe in an unchanging, that's the key word, unchanging entity that basically gets reincarnated into different bodies, different lives. And they basically said that the soul gives rise to consciousness. It would be easier for me to accept that there are souls, but they're not unchanging. And, the very fact that they move through different bodies presupposes change. But anyway, that's not the main point that I'm trying to make here. The main point I'm trying to make here is my attitude and the driver behind that conversation within me. I believe it's important to spread this knowledge so people can liberate themselves. But at the same time, I felt that the way I handled it was not skillful. What do I mean by that? So when I was talking to them, I was pointing out emptiness and anatto meaning no self. I was basically pointing in direct experience. It's flux, it's empty. Everything is void of inherent existence. When you have a flower, the flower requires the whole of the universe in order to be that flower, that thing. It requires rain, it requires soil, nutrients. If you remove one condition, it won't be what it is right now. And that is why there is no inherent existence of the flower. It is merely the links of those conditions. And that is why it's empty. It's empty of its own inherent existence, but full of the universe, you could say. So what does that feel like in direct experience? There's a sort of spontaneity, there's a sort of interconnectedness that you feel, freedom and lightness, yet empty does not feel empty. Empty feels full. So reality is a dream, and the dream is reality. When I was pointing this out, I felt very insistent on pointing out to them anatta and emptiness, because it's quite blatantly obvious in direct experience. But in hindsight, I recognize that this insistence and this need to convince them, not only to convince them, but just the energy behind it, it was lacking patience, tranquility, equanimity, joy. That is the problem for me. So I investigated into why that is. First, I felt into the emotions. I asked myself, what would I feel like if what I said will not be heard by them, like it won't be recognized by them. And I felt the emotions in my body, and I let that go. And then I investigated into my beliefs. If I feel so insistent on telling them about anatta and emptiness, am I not reifying the concept of anatta and emptiness, which is not anatta and emptiness itself in a way? So any beliefs that you reify is not what it's pointing at. Just, Alan Watts said, don't eat the menu, eat the food. It's not the same thing. I've formed a tendency or a very subtle belief in anatta and emptiness. And that is why I'm looking to penetrate through those subtle inherent views. If I view anatta and emptiness as truth, then it would mean that no self is the truth. But in reality, no self is not the truth. Emptiness is not the truth. There is no truth. So it's tricky, because in order to get to the point where you recognize that, there's no truth, and even there's no truth could be reified into a belief. Even saying it's all just this could be reified into a belief. So what I learned was that the spiritual path isn't about formulating more beliefs. And even though along the way, we could fall I certainly feel that I would fall into the trap of formulating beliefs about God, being, love, emptiness, anatta. And that is okay for a while. But if we hold on to those beliefs, they will in some way change the way we perceive the world. Like they will slap on a filter. I think the path is about being fluid, and I'm just, trying to live a more skillful life that is supported by, wisdom, compassion, and metta. Metta being loving kindness. I'm in a Facebook group called Awakening to Reality. So one of the admins posted a very interesting post about balancing the view of emptiness, luminosity, and compassion, the spontaneous compassion of humanity. And I found that very interesting, because it made a lot of sense to me. Whilst we could deconstruct all of our beliefs, but that is no way to function. We need to first see through the beliefs and then formulate the best beliefs or best views in order to guide us to live skillfully. Yet at the same time, being mindful of how those beliefs might affect the way we perceive reality. And that is my rant for today. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and may you be well, may you be happy, may you be joyful, may you be at peace, and be free from pain and suffering.